giving them adequately straight information, letting them know the Most High was tired, that he's about to bust his camps wide open. And what we want to get into now is what empire busted up Jerusalem? What empire made them flee to the mountains? So what we're going to do is we're going to refer to Babylon, Timbuktu, page 84, and this here is going to identify that empire.
Okay. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
What army?
General Pompey's army.
Who was the army?
Roman armies.
The Roman armies. So many of us that woke up in today's last days know that the Romans took down Jerusalem, the last remaining kingdom, which the kingdom was split in half by this time, took down Judah, Benjamin, and whatever Levites was among them in them last days. Finish reading.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
So as you see, this was from St. Luke 21 to Timbuktu to Babylon. This was the first identification where the Romans really took Jerusalem down. This scripture in the reference book is to show when Esau, Edomites, took power of the world and when they started introducing their system of laws, living, and ways of keeping time that we know of from Second Esdras of Esau being the end of the world. So this is when it all started. So now we want to see what happened during this time when Esau come into power. I want y'all to get to Daniel chapter 7:25.
Daniel chapter 7 verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
So many of us that been studying know that Daniel for this chapter was applied to the Romans when we was delivered into their hands, when they, took power, thought to change times. We know they changed times. For many of us that live in Babylon, we don't even follow the laws of the Most High. We follow the whole law system that was made by Esau. But specifically, what I wanted to look into in this scripture, which was key point, was they thought to change times. So we need to look into what time was changed by Esau. What did Esau change? Okay, as you look further, the first place of research I started for the current calendars of today, I traced of its origins and its historical roots. What's the Gregorian calendar? The Gregorian calendar is the calendar we use right now. January through December, Sunday through Saturday, we use off the Gregorian calendar. So let's get an understanding of what is the Gregorian calendar. As you see in the teaching of the PDF, there's a link for the Gregorian calendar, Wikipedia, and we're gonna go right into it. I'm gonna have my brother read that some information of what the Gregorian calendar is, and we cover that as well.
Start here.
Yeah.
The Gregorian calendar, also known as the Western calendar,
or calendar?
The Western calendar.
So that's where we come from. Even though we ain't in the West no more, but as you see, it's separated. It didn't even say the world calendar. It's known as the Western calendar. Finish.
Or Christian calendar.
Christianity
is an internationally accepted civil calendar. It was introduced by Pope Gregory.
So therefore, right there alone, if we already saying we're going to disconnect ourselves from the Catholic world, the Catholic information, or with just whatever's passed down by the Pope. We shouldn't even be accepting this calendar right there. As you see, it was introduced by the Pope 13. Read.
After whom the calendar was named, by a decree signed on the 24th of February, 1582.
1582, which we know ain't nobody alive today. So therefore, being that this is 2011 Roman time, which I'll explain that later, 2011, we're using a calendar that was adopted in 1582. We're looking at possibly been using this calendar 400 years already. Let's get more information on that.
A papal bull known by its opening words, Inter Gravismus. The reformed calendar was adopted later that year by a handful of countries, with other countries adopting it over the following centuries. The motivation for the Gregorian reform was that Julian calendar assumes that the time between vernal equinoxes in 365 and 25 days, when in fact it was presently almost exact 11 minutes shorter.
Now, because this has a lot of information, you can read further about the Gregorian calendar. But I'm going to stop it right there because, as you see, it was adopted in 1588, and it was a reform of the Julian calendar. So now that we know that it was adopted in 1588, and it was a reform from another calendar of the Julian, which was, I'm assuming, before 1588, then by all means, I want you to continue to read this information so you will know more of the Gregorian. But we're going to stop it here because we got so much to cover and go directly to the Julian calendar that it was reformed from and get understanding and wisdom from that calendar, since the Gregorian comes from that calendar. Now my brother read that, and he's going to give you the understanding of where does Julian calendar come from, who started it, and what era was that time.
The Julian calendar began in 45 BC.
What year?
45 BC.
So that right now still doesn't even correspond to Moses. 45 BC is definitely many years after the creation up to Moses. So again, as we refer to when the Jews admitted that they adopted the Julian calendar from the Moses calendar, they adopted something that was started in 45 BC. Let's get understanding to that.
As a reform of the Roman calendar by Julius Caesar.
By Julius who?
Julius Caesar.
And who was Julius Caesar? If I remember, Julius Caesar was the man that controlled the Romans, right? So if the Julian calendar comes from Julius Caesar, which was a man that was amongst the Roman Empire, again, why would we want to use any information that comes from Julius Caesar or the Roman Empire or anything of a sort? So I'm going to let my brother finish reading that.
It was chosen after the consultation with the astronomer Sosigenes of Alexandria, and was probably designed to approximate the tropical year. The Julian calendar has a regular year of 365 days, divided into 12 months with a leap day, added to February every 4 years.
With a leap day. Definitely remember that research, because that leap day, which we know as leap year, is going to come back up.
The Julian year is therefore on an average of 365 to 26 days long. The motivation for most calendars is to fix the number of days between the return of the cycle of seasons from spring equinox to the next spring equinox. For example, so that the calendar could be used as an aid to planting and other season-related activities. The cycle of seasons, tropical